Hey everyone, welcome to the Dyl Pickle Movie Network. I am Dylan Randazzo, and welcome to my continued New York Film Festival 62 coverage. I took a little bit of a hiatus just due to the World Series and the election and all the spooky season watching I was doing in Halloween, the Halloween season for spooky season. So please bear with me. Thank you for bearing with me at this point, and thank you for allowing me the time to just kind of like refresh and regroup and get back into talking about all these movies that I liked or didn't like so far. And this is a movie that I did like quite a bit. It's not a film that you're going to be hearing a lot about this award season because it's actually going to be coming out, I think, in 2025. And it's probably going to get a little bit of a smaller release, but I do think it deserves a lot of eyes. And I think this has the potential to capture a lot of hearts and capture a lot of attention, even for families. You know, this deals with some very tricky subject matter at times, but I do think it could be fun for the entire family as long as you have that disclaimer and you have that conversation ready to be had. And what that conversation is, we'll get into in a sec. But the film in question, the film in conversation is The Friend, adapted from the 2018 novel The Friend by Sigrid Nunez. It's directed by David Siegel and Scott McGehee. It stars Naomi Watts, Bill Murray, Sarah Pidgeon, Constance Wu, Ann Dowd, Noma Dumezwani, Owen Teague, Carla Gugino. I mean, so many great actors. But at its center is perhaps the best actor of all, and that is Bing, who plays the stubborn but also very endearing Apollo. You know, they say the two hardest things to work with in at least live theater, coming from a live theater world, are kids and animals because they have different temperaments than your average human. You know, they have different spontaneities. You know, they're a little harder to rein in at times. Kids can get either bored and their attention spans could wane a bit. Dogs and animals, you know, have this real unpredictability to them, especially if you give them an audience and they're clapping. Like, what does that do to both a kid or an animal? And I think, you know, it's a really fascinating thing to see a movie like this where the animal is not only really well, you know, behaved and very compatible with the actors, but is also giving a great performance. Like, I was tripping out a bit. I was like, wow, is this dog emoting? Is this dog making faces? Is this dog reacting to what it's hearing? And it is really just a testament to not just the owner of Bing, who was at the festival, was super lovely. I actually caught them taking pictures at the stairs at Lincoln Center in front of the fountain. Just such a delightful lady. But also just the actors around them, the way they were able to be so embracing of this animal, especially because it's a big animal. I mean, Apollo, the character Apollo, he's a big Great Dane, and I think that adds to a lot of the humor as well. Because the story, what it is about Naomi Watts' character Iris taking in this Great Dane after her friend passes away, actually takes his own life. And that's kind of where the tricky subject matter is. So if you're watching it with a family, that conversation about mental health and suicide is going to be inevitable. So I think, you know, don't show it to your real young kids. But I think if your kids are in like the middle school, late elementary school era, or age, I don't know, Taylor Swift on the brain, but yeah, like if they're of that age, I think it could be a really interesting kind of way to open up that conversation about mental health and suicide in a way that's not very forceful because nothing's seen on screen. It's all about the grief process. And I was giving a testament to Bing's owner, of course, but also to the animal trainers because they really got so much great emotion out of Bing in those sequences where you really need to just feel and emote and, you know, feel this grief through these characters because animals grieve too. And I think that's something that is not necessarily captured as well in media. Usually films are told from the human's perspective, and if they have animals in their stories, usually the humans are grieving the animals, and it's really tough to watch. And I hate those movies because they make me feel things that I don't want to feel. But in this movie, it's the other way around. It's the human passing away, and it's about how the animal grieves and how, of course, Naomi Watts' character grieves as well as his best friend. But also how she manages not only being a new dog owner, but also having to share this grief with this animal and help this animal overcome his grief. Because ultimately, you know, they have to rely on one another to overcome a very hard point in both of their lives. There's a really stunning scene. It's a heartbreaking scene, but they're going through a lot of Bill Murray's character's old things, and she holds up a T-shirt, and Apollo, the character, Bing plays Apollo. Apollo snatches that T-shirt out of her hands, and it is quite literally a jump scare. Like, I literally jumped in my seat because it's a very abrupt moment. But in that moment, there's a lot of furiosity. You know, the animal is very clearly angry, but there's also a sadness because then it just runs up to the bed and just kind of like puts his head down and like kind of sniffs the shirt, and it's a sad moment. And what I love about this film is that it is not big, it's not grand, it's a very intimate story, but it tells something so big and universal in the idea of grief, especially when it is sudden, when there is this like very blink and you miss it type reality where, one moment you're alive, the next moment your life is literally changed on its head. It's a very nuanced way to approach those ideas because you also have this element of it being an animal. You have this extra layer that we don't see in a lot of films of this animal trying to grieve through the process without words and through body language and through just his own temperament, which is so impressive. I think the way they trained this dog on set, but the way the actors worked alongside of, especially Naomi Watts having to deliver most of the scenes to an animal scene partner who can't necessarily speak his emotions, and even when he's emoting, it is very difficult because you have all these other factors in play. You have trainers and owners and other people on set and gaffers and cinematographers. A film set can be a hectic place, but it feels like this is such an intimate, safe space to where you almost wonder how many other people were in the room because it feels so intimate and so personal. And I do think this movie is going to speak to so many because of that, because it can remind us that we are not alone in our grief, but also remind us that we are not alone in our own mental health and that there's always someone or something there to uplift. But it also shows that we have to also listen to our animals. We have to take our animals' emotions seriously. We have to take our animals seriously and understand that they're not just property. They're not just a fun thing to rely on when you want to have a good time and play and cuddle, and they're not just there to cheer you up, but they're there to also kind of reciprocate your feelings. When you're feeling down, you want a good cuddle, but when you're feeling excited, you want to celebrate a high, you go on a walk with them, you go on a run, you play fetch. These animals are essentially extended emotional inflections of ourselves, and also they inflict their own emotions on us, and we can kind of share in this like kind of really interesting give and take of emotions, with something that ultimately you wouldn't think would be this super empathetic or emotional being, but they are. When you leave and a dog's barking and a dog's crying and wincing, like, it's because they have this emotional attachment. I don't know, I just thought a lot about my life, and I'm a lot about my dogs. I love my dogs, Luke and Vito, and I know my family, we've always been a dog family, because we love just having that extra emotional support. But it just reminds you even more about how important a bond between human and animal can be. I don't know. I just think it's all very fascinating. It's a very fascinating, like, psychological kind of a film. It really makes you think about just your relationship to others, not just human, but animals as well. But yeah, I thought this was delightful. I think this is going to be a film that, if you can get past the hard topics of suicide, and this is kind of played as like a lighter, kind of comedic drama. It is dramatic at times, but it does have little comedic flares, especially because there's a lot of hijinks about this woman and this big Great Dane in her apartment. So I do think there is going to be a lot of enjoyable, like, hijinks to be had that a young kid could enjoy. But there are those difficult conversations. So I do want to give that disclaimer, give that warning. But I think if this does become available near you, go seek it out, because especially if you're a pet owner, this is just going to bring a lot more resonance into your own kind of way of thinking when you interact with your animals, when you interact with other people's animals, and just, reminding you of how sacred and how perfect and beautiful a bond can be with, you and your pets. And I think, that's sometimes all a film has to be, is just a reminder of the little simple joys in life. That may be little and simple to you, but it's their whole world. You are all they know. It's just so beautiful. So check out The Friend. It's not going to be the most, like, masterful, innovative film you'll ever see, but in terms of dog acting, I really do think it is. Like, we've seen some good dog acting in the past few years. Most recently, like, Messi in Anatomy of a Fall, and Brandy in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But I really do think, like, this is one of my favorite dog performances, because it also is multi-layered. It's not just about the sadness, but there is a lot of, like, comedic hijinks, as I talked about. So I do recommend this one. I think this is one that is not going to be like the best of the fest, but is one that I definitely recommend for all people. I think everyone can enjoy it, no matter your age. I think it deals with some heavy subject matter in a very nuanced, interesting way. There's one moment toward the end that I was really, really nervous it was going to pivot into like a Marley and Me situation, and they have a great fake out. And I don't want to spoil it for you because I think it's a fun reveal, but it is also a little cruel in a way. I guess I will slightly spoil it because there are a lot of people who want to know, like, does the dog die? Because a lot of people don't want to watch a movie where the dog dies. I'll tell you right now, if you want to know if the dog dies, wait 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. The dog doesn't die, but there's a moment where you think the dog might be dead and then it like turns its head, and it was a really cruel trick. And at first I was thinking, oh shit, are they gonna kill this dog? Are they gonna make us watch this dog die? And if that was the case, I would have been like, nope, stay away, I don't want to watch this. But the fact that they like pivot it and they make you think it's gonna be that Marley and Me ending, but really the dog just spruces up and turns its head around, I think it's a little emotionally manipulative, that one moment. But I was also very relieved in that moment. Our whole audience was laughing. We were all like, phew, we all kind of took a sigh of relief together. But that one moment I'm still struggling with, because I'm like, oh, was that worth it? That cruel kind of like pull the blanket out from underneath us. What is the phrase there? I don't know. Pull the rug out from under us. There it is, not blanket. But like, am I liking that choice, or do I wish they had just not teased us at all with that? Because for a very split second I thought this dog was lying there dead. Anyway, movie's great. Go check it out. Bing is great. One of the best performances of the year from animal or human, and it's just surrounded by a great cast who are all great in their own respective roles, both lead and supporting. But there we go. That's my review for The Friend. If you've seen The Friend at New York Film Festival or at TIFF, I believe those are the only two places it's played. But if you're watching this after it's come out, months and months later, and you saw it and you had thoughts about it, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts were, or if you're just excited to see it, let me know in the comments below as to why, and if you're excited for it. And please like this video, please subscribe, keep this going. We are going to be delivering a few more New York Film Festival reviews for you here on the Dyl Pickle Movie Network, but it has been a little bit of a while since I posted them. I'm trying to get back into the swing of things now that all the elections and World Series and spooky season watching are over. And I'm excited to finally get to my ranking of all the films, all 17, I believe, films that I saw at New York Film Festival as we head into Oscar season at its full force. But thank you so much for watching this review, and stay tuned for more. Thanks so much.